Hey guys, Marissa at kitchentablestamper.com. Today I want to run you through this fun Christmas card. We're going to watercolor this mouse. The mouse is from Stampin' Up's Merry Mice, this little guy right here, and the sentiment I used is from Hang Your Stocking. All right, let's get started. First I want to go through the pieces and measurements so that if you want to make this card at home, you can. I have a kit that's already here. If you leave a comment on my blog, I'm going to pick a winner and send this kit out to one lucky commenter. kitchentablestamper.com. Just find the post and leave me your comments. All right, so what you need to recreate this card at home is a A2 card base. This is crumb cake, and it is 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4. I have 2 pieces of Designer Series paper. It's from the Warmth and Cheer stack. I have 2 inches by 6 inches, and I have 1.5 inches by 6 inches. I have some Very Vanilla cardstock. It's also 2 inches wide, and it's 5.5 inches. I think I was a little generous with this piece, but that's okay. The garden green cardstock. I cut this garden green cardstock with a little pinking circle from the Baker's Box die set, from that set. And another little scrap here of Very Vanilla, and that one is cut with the stitched shapes framelits dies. That's the smallest circle in the stitched shapes. You could also use the layering circles if you got those. All right. Lastly, I have a scrap of cherry cobbler cardstock. Any little scrap will do. You're gonna punch this little heart out of there. Okay. And some natural twine like the linen twine. Let's get started here. The first thing we're gonna do is do our stamping. So we need that Very Vanilla piece and this Very Vanilla circle. I'm using archival ink since we're going to watercolor with the stamp pads. Happiness is Coming to Town. I'm going to stamp that on the circle with the archival ink. You want to stamp it kind of low because you're going to cut and make it a tag. Okay, so see that? And now I'm going to use a 1/8 inch hole punch. I got a little tag there, and set that aside. Next up, this Very Vanilla piece. I've got the triple banner punch, and I am going to slide that in there, 2 inches wide. It slides right in and centers for a perfect dovetail cut. If you're not good at doing that with scissors, I love this tool. There we go. And while we're punching, we might as well do our Designer Series paper. So here's an 1.5 inch wide piece. Just slide it between those guides till it stops and punch. You get a perfectly even dovetail every time. Love it, love it. All right, one more time. Okay, now back to our little Very Vanilla piece. Now I'm gonna stamp the mouse from Merry Mice. I'm using black archival ink. And stamp them centered on the banner. I watercolored this little mouse with a water brush and Stampin' Up ink. I used Early Espresso, crumb cake, cherry cobbler, tiny bit of Calypso coral, Delightful Dijon, and garden green. Okay, let's start with our mouse. He's crumb cake and Calypso coral for the ears. I'm going to come in right underneath his hat with the heaviest saturation. There's the most color on my brush right now, and I'm going to work away from that so we get a little cast shadow along the side of his face and underneath his cap. I'm going to work across his face to this bottom kind of left side here where it's our lightest. A little more shadow on his ears here, right where the cat meets, and then let the color just wash out of your brush. There's his face. His feet, the same thing. You're going to use the most saturation right where his pants meet his feet. And then just let the color wash out of your brush as you go to the end of his feet. Don't forget his hands. And then clean your brush. Calypso Coral, I want a very light saturation, so I'm moving the ink away and watering it down. And we're going to wash a little bit of that Calypso Coral into his ears there. All right, his nose is Early Espresso. Grab the Early Espresso and touch his nose, leaving a little highlight. And then the book is also Early Espresso. So we're going to start under his hands where they make a little cast shadow. And the extremes. And let the color wash out of the brush as you move to the middle of the book. Okay. I'm going to clean my brush again and move these colors out. Start with his pants. Pick up the garden green, and right along the top where the shirt might cast a shadow is where we're going to start with our darkest color. And as we move away from that and unload the brush, look at some natural highlights and shadows. Working in little circles. I'm going to soften. There we go. His pants are done. Clean the brush and the Delightful Dijon. I'm going to work right underneath his book here, working in small circles. Underneath his arm is going to be a place where it'll be a little darker at the edge where the scarf is here. But as we move away from those things and let the brush unload color, we'll get some natural highlights. And now his hat and scarf. For his scarf, I just did a pretty full saturation, but for his hat, I am doing a darker saturation on the top edge and then working the brush clean as we get towards the inside there. So you can see there's some soft shading that's happening there. Okay. There we go. Our mouse is all colored. Take a look at him. He dries a little bit lighter. There he is. All right, let's assemble the card. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is add the Warmth and Cheer pattern papers. I'm using some snail adhesive, and I'm going to put the green plaid pattern almost entirely across the front of the card. And now the Cherry Cobbler sweater pattern. A little shorter. And then I will flip this over and trim off the excess. with my mouse. I'm going to add some snail adhesive. Adhere my mouse and turn it over. Trim off the excess. Then our little tag, got some natural twine here, like the linen thread, and I doubled it up, tie a pretty bow. Okay, so I've got a double bow that I like here, trim the edges. Sweet, huh? All right, now I've got my cookie cutter builder punch, and I want this little heart right here. So take that scrap of cherry cobbler and punch a tiny heart. Huh, isn't that sweet? Look at that tiny bitty heart. All right. Got a mini glue dot here, and I am going to fold it over itself, because it's just a bit bigger than the heart. Add the glue dot to the back and stick it on the little bow. I have a piece of dimensional adhesive. Center that little tag inside of the pinking circle from the baker's box thinlits. Snail adhesive on the back of that garden green, and add to the card. There they are. You can see in this one, I took my sewing machine and ran a couple of rows of stitches right through the card. Looks kind of fun. I think it matches well with the Warmth and Cheer designer stack. Here's without. All right, if you've got any questions about this card or about watercoloring with Stampin' Up inks, if there's anything I can do for you, email me, Marissa at kitchentablestamper.com. Thanks for watching.